Gabriel Martinelli and Arsenal's attacking conundrum. A worrying trend for Mikel Arteta? Is it the end of the road for Gabriel Martinelli at Arsenal? The short answer, for now, is no. Despite a noticeable dip in form and rising speculation, the Brazilian winger remains at the club. Arsenal never seriously considered selling him this summer, largely because no offer came close to the kind of valuation that would have tempted them. And with both Martinelli and Leandro Trossard still in the squad, the Gunners chose not to pursue a new left winger, despite long-standing interest in Real Madrid's Rodrigo. But while the transfer window closed without drama, questions around Martinelli's role at the club are louder than ever. From breakout star to bench uncertainty. It wasn't long ago, just 2 seasons, that Martinelli was one of the brightest young talents in the Premier League. During Arsenal's thrilling 2022-23 campaign, as they pushed Manchester City all the way in the title race, Martinelli exploded with 15 league goals and 5 assists, by far the best numbers of his career. But those figures may have flattered to deceive. His non-penalty expected goals, NPXG, that season was just 9.1, meaning he significantly outperformed his chances, a sign that some regression was likely. And that's exactly what happened. In 2023-24, Martinelli netted just 6 league goals, slightly under his XG of 6.8. Last season, he managed 8 goals, narrowly edging an XG of 7.4. Still solid, but far from the heights fans had come to expect. Now, 2 games into the current campaign, Martinelli has 0 NPXG and hasn't looked anywhere near his sharpest. And for the first time under Arteta, it feels like his place in the team is genuinely under threat. Is Arteta to blame? Some have pointed fingers at Mikel Arteta, claiming the Brazilian has become overcoached or that he's thinking too much rather than playing on instinct. But the data doesn't fully support that narrative. In fact, Arteta is the coach who integrated Martinelli into the starting 11, helping him leapfrog the likes of Emile Smith-Rowe in the pecking order. From 2019 to 2023, Martinelli's metrics, non-penalty XG, shot-creating actions per 90 minutes, and dribble success, consistently improved under Arteta's guidance. But that upward curve has now flattened, and, in some areas, reversed. His shot-creating actions dropped from 4.1 in 2023 to just 2.91 per 90 last season. His ability to beat defenders also seems to have declined, with his tackle resistance, i.e., how often he loses possession in duels, worsening over the past 2 seasons. It's not necessarily a coaching problem. Most players have improved under Arteta. But football isn't always linear, and not every player hits their expected peak. The Trossard effect. The turning point in Martinelli's Arsenal journey may have been January 2023, when Leandro Trossard arrived from Brighton. Trossard immediately impressed, stepping in as a false 9 during Gabriel Jesus' injury spell and often outperforming Martinelli in the final third. Since then, the Brazilian status as an automatic starter has been far less certain. Rather than rise to the challenge, Martinelli seems to have lost a bit of his edge. His energy and work rate are still there, but his decision-making, especially in the final third, hasn't evolved. A perfect example came recently at Anfield. Martinelli broke down the left with pace, but instead of squaring the ball to an open Victor Gyökeres, he drove toward the byline and hit it out for a goal kick. Head down, eyes closed. It's become a pattern, one that's hurting Arsenal's attacking rhythm. What does the future hold? Martinelli is under contract until 2026, with the club holding an option to extend for another year. But if things don't improve, and if he enters next summer with just 1 year left on his deal, Arsenal may be forced to consider their options. The problem? His market value has likely dropped well below the £60 million once rumoured. Selling him in a down cycle could mean a significant financial and sporting loss for the club. For now, Arteta appears committed to keeping Martinelli involved. He's still just 24, young enough to turn things around. But with Arsenal pushing for trophies on all fronts and the margin for error shrinking, patience may not last forever. Time to step up. Martinelli doesn't need to replicate his 2022-23 heroics overnight, but he does need to show signs of growth. Better decisions in the final third, more composure under pressure, and a clearer understanding of when to pass versus when to shoot. Those tweaks could make the difference between reigniting his Arsenal career or drifting toward the exit door. So Gunas, what's your verdict? Is it time for Arsenal to move on? Or should Arteta double down on developing Martinelli back into the star he once looked destined to become? Let us know where you stand. Gabriel Martinelli's Arsenal future in doubt as questions mount for Mikel Arteta. Gabriel Martinelli was once seen as a symbol of Arsenal's exciting future, fast, fearless, and full of flair. But fast forward to today, and his place in the squad is no longer guaranteed. As Mikel Arteta faces renewed scrutiny over his team's attacking inconsistency, Martinelli has become a central figure in the discussion. Is this the beginning of the end for the Brazilian at Arsenal? A worrying decline in form. Martinelli's standout season in 2022-23, where he scored 15 Premier League goals and added 5 assists, now feels more like an outlier than a new standard. Since then, his production has dropped sharply. In 2023-24, he managed just 6 league goals, and the season after, only 8. More concerningly, his overall impact in games has faded. His expected goals and creative metrics have declined, while his decision-making in the final third remains a persistent weakness. Despite his relentless energy and willingness to run at defenders, he often dribbles with his head down, missing passing opportunities or failing to make the right choice under pressure. It's a flaw that has become more evident as defenders have learned how to contain him. Arteta's role and tactical evolution. Some believe Martinelli's drop-off is linked to Arteta's tactical system becoming more rigid or overly structured. However, the numbers show that under Arteta's guidance, Martinelli initially improved year-on-year in key areas like expected goals and chance creation. The issue doesn't seem to be about poor coaching. It might just be that Martinelli has hit a plateau while others around him have evolved. The arrival of Leandro Trossard during the 2022-23 season added depth to the left wing and competition for minutes. Trossard's versatility and composure in the final third have made him a reliable option, and in some key matches, Arteta has opted for the Belgian over Martinelli. That shift in trust has been hard to ignore. Fans divided. The Arsenal fan base is clearly split. Some are frustrated and vocal, questioning Martinelli's development and urging the club to consider moving on. Others believe he's simply in a rough patch and deserves time and support to bounce back, especially considering he's still only 24. What's clear is that the pressure is growing. With every game he starts or comes off the bench without making an impact, the questions get louder. What happens next? Martinelli is under contract until 2026, with an option to extend by a further year. But if his form doesn't improve significantly this season, Arsenal may have to decide whether to cash in next summer, when he'll have just 1 year left on his deal. The problem? His market value has likely dropped. Once linked with a price tag of over £60 million, the club may struggle to get anything close to that now. This puts Arsenal in a difficult position. Do they continue to invest time and resources in a player whose trajectory has stalled? Or do they look for a more clinical, decision-smart attacker who fits the club's evolving ambitions? A make-or-break season ahead. Martinelli still has time to turn things around. He has the talent, the experience, and a manager who once built a team around his energy. But the margin for error is smaller than ever. In a squad now filled with technical, positionally disciplined players, every minute counts, and so do results. This season could determine whether Gabriel Martinelli remains part of Arsenal's long-term future, or becomes another case of early promise unfulfilled. Gunas, what do you think? Has Martinelli earned the right to fight for his place? Or has his time run its course at the Emirates? Let's hear your thoughts. How would you rate Arsenal's £300 million summer spending spree? If we're being honest, maybe our best signing this summer wasn't even a player. It might have been Andrea Berta. Arsenal's new director of football has brought a refreshing approach, methodical, discreet, and intelligent. He doesn't chase headlines or play to the cameras. His job isn't to feed YouTubers or TV pundits. It's to build a winning squad, and he's getting to work. Berta prefers to speak with as many targets as possible, gather all the information, and only then sit down with the recruitment team to evaluate every angle. It's a patient process, sometimes frustrating for fans, but it's already paying off. His tactics helped Arsenal get the upper hand over Sporting CP in the Gyökeres negotiations and outmaneuver Tottenham in the ease pursuit. Gyökeres, ease and transfer power plays. Victor Gyökeres made it clear to Berta he wanted Arsenal. That gave us leverage, especially as Benjamin Sesko had already decided against a move to North London. Interestingly, the forward's agent contradicted Sporting's version of the transfer saga, accusing the club of going back on a verbal promise made a year ago, that if Gyökeres gave them one more season, they wouldn't block a future move. His camp claims they have proof of that agreement. Knowing we were his only choice, Arsenal held firm. We didn't get dragged into a bidding war, because there wasn't one. Just smart, controlled negotiation. Then there's Eberechi's. His preference for returning to North London was no secret. So, the idea that Arsenal only moved for him after Havertz's injury isn't accurate. Terms had already been agreed with both Crystal Palace and the player well in advance. We were simply waiting to finalise other priorities and free up funds by moving on some fringe players. Palace were in no rush. They wanted to start their season strong. But their owner, Steve Parish, stayed in close contact with our board. So when the time came, everyone was ready to move. Spending smart, or did we? There are still questions to ask. Was it really necessary to invest so heavily in Maducan defenders when we clearly needed another left midfielder? It's fair to say we could have made more from outgoings, but that's the result of poor squad management from a previous regime. With Berta now in charge, there's hope that those mistakes won't be repeated. Transfer window verdict. At the end of the day, fans just want to see their club push to be the best version of itself. This summer, Arsenal finally did that, though you can't help but wonder why it didn't happen 12 months ago. It remains to be seen whether this was a shift in long-term transfer strategy or a one-off splurge. Don't be surprised if, by this time next year, the Kroenkes have recovered much of what they spent. But taken on its own, I'd rate this transfer window an 8 out of 10. Yes, there was pressure to land a proven goalscorer, and we likely signed the best available. Before news surfaced that Alexander Isak was attainable from Newcastle, Arsenal had been led to believe any deal was a non-starter, or maybe we simply didn't agree with their valuation. Now, if I woke up tomorrow and saw we'd signed Mbappé, I'd say we're winning the league. I don't feel the same about Isak, and at £130 million, maybe I should. Ease should help take the creative burden off Degaard, who, let's be honest, has been carrying that load alone. It could have been a 9/10 if we had spent the money from Maducan Mosquera on a top-tier right-back instead. And we really need to stop this bad habit of loaning players just to cut the wage bill. It's a short-term solution that keeps causing long-term problems. My final rating, 8/10. What about you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Did Arsenal do enough to compete for the title, or did we miss a trick?